few words about the young people section in the book. As we were just sort of like, going through the translation and just drafting the book, we sort of thought that there was just this one, this one voice that we were missing out on, and that was the voice of the youth, basically. So we decided to go out and interview a few of them, just to sort of see what their own personal, experience was, how they felt about, having to move to a different country again and start life anew. And what's interesting is that actually a lot of them lived in places in Holland, Sweden, or other European countries, in cities that didn't have that many of the Somali people there to begin with, and obviously moving to Leicester as a big group and having to get used to seeing so many Somali people, like so many people that are the same as they were, was quite a bit of a culture shock as well as having to get used to like living in a new place. But what's interesting is that actually this it turned into a positive. Like they decided to get more involved within their communities. They started to learn more about their cultural background, who they were, just a little bit more about their actual ethnic background, and obviously they encountered a lot of struggles that their parents encountered, like there's like language barriers, having to get adjusted in school again, and as you read the stories of like the older generation that moved to Leicester and the younger generation, there's similarities in there in terms of what they had to overcome to sort of start functioning again well in a new society. And I think because we all shared that same experience, we just sort of helped each other to get adjusted and do all right. So I'd just like to quickly read one of the stories in the book, just a short extract basically, of one of the girls when she first came to Leicester and what she first thought of it basically. Find that. This is not my book, clearly, because I've lost it. Here we go.
Look for the yellow.
Yeah.
Yellow markers.
I find it, I think. Here we go. Her name is Sagal, and she's now 24. I think she was about 15 or 16 when she moved. Right. I was 1.5 years old when we left Somalia. It was 1988 and reflecting that after the regime had imprisoned my father for opposing them. My mother felt it was no longer safe for us to remain in Somalia, so we moved to Belgium afterwards and then finally settled in Holland, where my father joined us in 1989. I assimilated into the Dutch culture and was hardly aware of my Somali heritage. My parents would occasionally remind me of my Somali culture, but the reminders never left an imprint. It was when we moved to Leicester that I received a crash course in being Somali and everything that was associated with it, including tribalism, known to Somalis as qabil, a concept that was quite alien to my understanding of family kinship. I remember one particular incident where I met an old Somali guy in the lift of our building. He asked me what my clan was, to which I replied, I don't know. He asked me who I was related to, so I told him my father's name. He shook his head and called me an idiot for not knowing. and I found this really upsetting. I went home and informed my mother, but she just laughed it off and patted me. Embarrassed I didn't know my family lineage, she sat me down and explained the concept of qabil. I nodded along, but I never really fully comprehended it. It was only after a few similar incidents with Somali people at my school and in our neighbourhood that I began to understand how the clan system works and that we as Somalis belong to different clans. It was then that bits of the Civil War made sense to me.